Afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome. I think we're waiting for a couple more folks to pop in on Zoom. Well, fantastic. Hello, welcome, everyone. My name is Rebecca Singer. I work with Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens Public Programs, and I want to thank you all for joining us today. I am so delighted that we can gather virtually together to enjoy bountiful summer blooms today. And I'm joined today by Ami Wilber, who many of you know is Hillwood's floral and event decor designer. Ami joined Hillwood in 2016, and she has extensive experience as a floral designer. We're going to turn things over to Ami in just a moment, but first I wanted to share with you just a few quick notes. First of all, of course, Hillwood is beautiful any time of year, and summer is no exception. So this is a great time to come and explore the summer blooms in our gardens at Hillwood, as well as the current exhibitions we have going on now. So I hope that all of you who are connecting with us from the DC area today will get a chance to come and see us in person sometime soon. And a few notes about today's class. Ami is going to walk through and make an arrangement. She's going to show us step-by-step how to put this Bountiful Blooms arrangement together. And in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments that you want to share, please feel free to include those, share those in the chat as they go through your mind. And then there will be pauses throughout the demonstration where I will be able to relay those questions to Ami, and she'll be happy to answer those for you. I also want to let you know that at the end of the demonstration portion of our program this afternoon, we are going to invite everybody to share the arrangement that you've been working on. So anyone who would like to, we love getting to see the great and creative work that you've all been doing throughout the demonstration. So we'll give you that opportunity when Ami is finished with her demo. You can feel free to work with your camera on or with your camera off, whatever feels best to you. And with that, I think I'm going to turn things over to Ami now. So welcome, Ami. We're excited to get started.
Great, thank you, Rebecca. And also, again, like Rebecca had mentioned, if you have any questions or need, to have something answered immediately, you can just put it into the chat function, and then she'll be able to then get you going with answering those and relaying them to me. So we're going to start. I'm just going to ask Rebecca if you can highlight me as the speaker. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to get started today with an arrangement that is inspired by Constance Spry, and also using her philosophy and then using one of Hillwood's philosophies of sustainability within our horticulture department, and how we can sort of bring these two ideas together. Constance Spry was someone who I came across only about 2 years ago, and I started to do a lot of research on her, and I really appreciated the style and the aesthetic that she was doing and what she actually did for floral design. She was one of the first people to sort of make floral design to be something that was accessible for everyone. She was doing this over in England at the time and really wanted to create something beautiful that no matter who you were, if you were a royal or if you were just someone coming off the street, that you'd be able to appreciate floral design. So it's sort of through that and the idea of accessibility about floral design that really inspired me to try and think of a way how we could sort of honor her. And actually, when I was in the process of creating this workshop, I realized that the Garden Museum in London is actually having a huge Constance Spry retrospective right now as we speak. So if you go to their website, which I believe is just, you could Google the Garden Museum in England, you'll see that links for it, and then you'll be able to sort of see and hear some of the talks about Constance Spry as well. So it was sort of using that, and then also again trying to tie it into Hillwood. And right now in our cutting garden and all around campus, we have a lot of native flowers. The point of native flowers is one that it really this time of year helps attract bees and also butterflies. and we're trying to create an environment for them they want to come to and, be able to pollinate and be able to do their thing. And it helps, obviously, every other aspect of the environment. So I thought that those sort of two ideas we could kind of bring together and create an arrangement for today. One of the things that I loved about learning in terms of Constance Spry, and also one of the things that I do here a lot at Hillwood, is to really go into your backyard, or for me, it's the cutting garden or around campus, and just look at things that sort of inspire me, things that you wouldn't necessarily take into consideration maybe when you first look at it, but things that are plentiful and things that sort of represent your region of the country, to then bring it into a container to make an arrangement I thought would be something that would be fun, that you could either, again, go into your own backyards, into the local farmers market, or wherever you might be able to sort of forage some items for your arrangement. I know that some of the items that we're using today aren't necessarily very traditional, like the kale, for example. The kale is sort of a tribute to Constance Spry. One of the first arrangements that I had seen a picture of her arrangement was literally just a beautiful vase that was filled with kale. So that's why the kale has sort of come into play today. And then the other flowers I'll also explain as we sort of go through creating our arrangement today. So with that sort of being said, I'm going to go again step by step with how we're going to create this. We're going to start off with our chicken wire. And what I like to do is just sort of make this into a little ball. And again, we're using chicken wire because it's sustainable, and we're also using the chicken wire because it's something that was actually used back in the time of Constance Spry as well. The container that we used is very reminiscent to me of a container that Constance Spry would have used. She used a lot of this beautiful sort of white porcelain and pottery pieces. So that was just something that I found online that I thought would be fun, also as a little tribute to her to make our arrangement in. So again, I'm going to put my chicken wire into my container. And then I'm going to use some floral tape. I always use this sort of clear floral tape so you don't see it when you're taping it down. It's also very important to use floral tape when you're using chicken wire so that it keeps the chicken wire in place. And then just for a little extra security, I usually tape around the entire rim of the container so that I know that the floral tape is going to stay in place. So again, we have our container with the chicken wire and then the floral tape. One of the other things that I love is using this Lazy Susan. So I have it actually propped up onto a bucket so that it's a good height for the demonstration. But the thing that I like about it is that you can then sort of move easily around and you can see all sides of your container. The next thing I'm going to do is fill my container with water. A lot of people ask if we use any sort of, floral food or anything like that. At this stage, when I'm creating arrangements, it's just regular tap water. The reason we do that is I'm just used to it at this point because we don't ever put anything into the water that's going to go into the mansion or into the visitor center, so it doesn't stain anything. But if you have those little floral packets, definitely put them in if you want to. It certainly helps. If you don't have it, it's not a big deal either. I don't necessarily notice that much of a difference either way. So before we get started with actually getting into our materials, does anyone have any questions about the container, prepping it, or anything that I discussed earlier? No, we're good? Okay. So like I said, today we're going to be using kale, which I've used kale in a lot of my other arrangements as well. And I think that anytime you can incorporate something that's a little bit unique, either like kale or sometimes herbs or something like that, I always think it's kind of fun to use that in an arrangement that's going to be anywhere near food, because it then sort of brings in the theme of food and also just a sort of fun element of surprise. So what I'm going to do, like with any of the other greens, is I'm going to strip down so that I don't have too much of the leaf part on the stem. And so I'm going to kind of strip it as much as I can to have a nice clean stem. With the same principle as doing anything else with greens, I'm going to cut it at a nice sharp 45-degree angle. That way we can have more surface area for water. And I chose this one to start with because it has this beautiful sort of arching shape. So I'm going to want that to go in and sort of sit and hang over the side of my container. So I'm starting, it's going to be a one-sided arrangement, but I'm starting with it, actually, I like this side better. I'm going to start sort of from the back and then work to the front, but I might be doing it a little bit differently just because the kale is just a little bit different in material than we typically use. And I'm looking at these pieces and I notice how, you know, it's curving naturally. So I'm going to stick with that again and not try and force it to go into a different direction. But I want the front part of the kale to be facing the front side of the arrangement. And what I'm going to do is think about the size of the container, and then I'm going to go about 1.5 times that size for my overall arrangement, which is also typically a good rule of thumb that whatever the size of your container, you want to go about 1.5 times that size. You don't want it to be too much bigger, otherwise it might not be balanced very well. I'm actually just going to do about 5 pieces of kale for now to start. Okay, and then I'm going to just do one more piece of kale, and then I'm going to start in with some of my other material that I have.
So Amy, we do have a question from Aria, who's saying that the kale is beautiful and also a larger size than she's used to seeing. She wants to know, can the kale be ordered in this size? And if yes, can you share the source?
So I ordered this kale through our cafe. So I don't actually know where they get the kale from, but I think it's also the, it does seem a little bit larger than normal, doesn't it? But maybe it's also particularly like this time of year, the dinosaur kale is just a little bit larger. I'm not really sure, but unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you. I just know that we got it from the cafe. They're very helpful with ordering any kind of herbs and vegetables for me. Okay, so after I have I've done this sort of fan sort of shape with my kale, I'm going to go in next with my Hibiscus or 9 bark, which is a nice sort of branchy element that I have. And I actually use this quite a bit in a lot of my arrangements when it starts to come into foliage. It's one of my favorite things. I love the fact that it has anywhere from like a green to a red leaf. And I like that a lot of times it's doing this weird sort of arching thing as well. So I'm going to start to go in next with that. And these are going to be my tallest elements, so that whatever the top of this is, I know I'm not going to go any higher than that. And in fact, I'm going to leave a lot of space up here at the top so that you can actually see this beautiful sort of gestural happening with the 9 bark. And again, I'm gonna look the jungle now. I'm gonna look at the shape of these to sort of dictate where it's going to go. Now I'm going to look for a little bit of a darker leaf one like this one. So you can see that, again, it's, this green that then turns into more of a darker, almost reddish color. So I have this going on. And then I'm going to go in with my last greening element, which is the hibiscus. This is something that we grow at Hillwood, and I absolutely love it. It's very reminiscent to me of almost like, kind of looks like Japanese maple, but it has this beautiful sort of like dark reddish color, and it's very, the only thing you need to be careful of is it does have like a little bit of thornage or something to it. So it's a little bit prickly. So you might want to be careful with that. And I'm going to cut off these bottom stems, or these bottom, let's see what I'm doing. I'm going to cut off these bottom leaves here. So I just have this little bit of the tip. And then I'm going to start to fill in the area with this. And the reason that I like to sort of green up my arrangement about 75% first is that it gives a little bit of more, not space, but it's taking up more space in the chicken wire because the chicken wire holes are a little bit big, so that if you start to green it and you have, you're taking up a lot of the space of the chicken wire, it just makes it a little bit easier than once you go in with your blooms that are sort of a little bit more delicate or have a thinner stem, for them to sort of sit into something to help catch it so they're not just sort of wobbling around, which is one of the, I know one of the sort of aspects of chicken wire that people don't necessarily like at first is because you can't just sort of like stick it into one spot and have it just, naturally just sort of like sit there perfectly. I kind of like that aspect of it though, just because, it feels a little bit more natural and that your stems are all kind of flowing in a direction that they naturally are, bound to do because of gravity instead of just like sticking straight out into one place. So what I'm doing with this also is I'm coming into the back area so I can then kind of fill in here as well, because even though it's going to be a one-sided arrangement, I don't want the back to be sort of cartoonishly flat so that when you turn it to the side, there's no volume in the back. So I do like to kind of green up and give it just a little bit of volume in the back here as well. And I'm going to do that with this hibiscus foliage. And the one thing that's nice about using a darker element or like a darker kind of green in the back is that when you turn to the front, you'll notice that it gives it a little bit more depth. That darkness in the back here kind of gives it a little bit more depth when you're looking at it from the front. All right, I'm going to put one more stem in and then stop for any questions. So I'm putting my last stem in back here. So then this is the back. And then this is the front. I do notice, if you do notice, like right here, you'll see that there's a bit of an opening and it's a bare spot because I'm going to put one of my large sunflowers in this spot. So I know that I wanted to kind of keep this one area right up here at the front a little bit open. Are there any questions? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna go in with my sunflowers. These are sunflowers that are from the local farm here in, where are they? They're close to Culpeper, Virginia. It's Woolham Gardens, which is where we got a lot of our flowers and blooms from today. And the one thing that I love about sunflowers this time of year, and also anytime that you see them, is they attract so many bees and so many birds. And the different stages of the sunflower determines like what's going to come in and sort of either feed off of it or pollinate from it. So I thought it was a good representation of something that, you know, both birds and bees love to use for their survival in the summertime. And like I said, there's this big sort of empty spot right here. So I'm going to want to put my sunflower, because this is the biggest gal, I'm going to put her right there. And it's going to be so that the petals are just slightly hanging over the side of it. So if you look from the side, it's not completely flush to it. There's still a little bit of room, but from the front, it looks like it's, you know, straight facing. And then what I like to do is take my largest blooms that I'm going to use and triangulate them in a pattern. And so I like to use typically odd numbers of flowers to make that possible. And then I have some sunflowers. I'm also taking off some of the brown leaves from the sunflowers that we don't need to have those anymore. But some of them aren't quite open yet, which is totally fine. And I actually like having my sunflowers sort of face in different directions. So I'm going to have this gal sort of facing off to the sides slightly. And then when I was talking about triangulating or making a triangular pattern in odd numbers, I'm then going to put my next one here. And again, I kind of like these ones that haven't quite opened up. They will open probably over the weekend. And then I kind of have her sort of facing the other way. So now you can see that we've got 1, 2, 3. I have available to me 5 of them, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to use all 5 of them or not just yet. So I want to, let's see, actually fix this one a little bit. And I might actually just stick with these 3 for now. The next thing I'm going to do, actually, let me see. No, I'm going to go in with all 5. I like the way this one looks a lot. So now I have 4, so I'm going to have to put the 5th one up here. And I'm going to bring this one back slightly so it's here, so that again, it gives it a little bit more dimension when you're looking at it from all different angles. So that if you look at this from the side, you can see this one is more towards the back. Okay. All right, so now, are there any questions about what I've done with these sunflowers? Feeling good? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is go in with my Rudbeckia, which is this, oopsie, this right here. And this particular cultivar is native to this region, and it's called Henry Ellis. And it's a a cousin of the black-eyed Susan, and she typically is a lot taller. She can grow up to be like 5 feet tall, and they are just absolutely spectacular. They have this sort of tubular petal, which I really think is kind of fun. And so what I'm going to do with these is I want to make sure that their little faces are pointing outwards. So that I want to show you from the side, put this in at an angle so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm putting it in at an angle so that when you look at it from the front, their little faces are facing out towards you. Instead of having it being up and down this way, which I will do some of them like that as well, but I definitely want them so that you can see their little faces. So that's why I'm putting it in at an angle this way. Like this. And again, I'm going to do sort of the same thing. I'm going to go 1, 2, and then I'm going to put 3 up in there. So we got it like this so far. Then I'm going to put some right in here. There we go. So it's like that. And then I'm going to just do another one down here. So we have it like this. Then I have this one little single one I'm going to put in back here. I think I'm going to put another one right in there. And as you can see, I've left a little bit of space right in this area right here. You can see there's a little bit more of a cluster of them here. So I'm kind of trying to create the visual effect of this one side starting to cascade down to then mimic what's happening here. Good. So the next thing that I'm going to do is go in with my vine. And I have a chunk of this honeysuckle that I'm going to use. And it's a nice long, so it's a little kind of woody vine. The one thing that I love about vines is obviously their curvy sort of nature. So I want to go in with this vine and really have it be almost like a creature sort of growing out of the arrangement. So it's going to be a little bit hard to see because this is very close, but I will move it back just a second so you can kind of see how the vine part of it feels like it's, you know, its own little entity and kind of growing out of this arrangement. And again, I'm gonna, you know, some of these vines are really long. So, you know, like this one is really super, super long. So I might take that and then try and wrap some of it into my arrangement. So as you can see, it's very, I don't know if you can see, but it's a very long vine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in here into the back, and then I'm gonna just take it and kind of weave her in amongst the sunflowers, and then have her kind of come back around. So I don't know if you can see what I've done, but it's coming from here and it's going in and around, and it's kind of making this fun little shape. Again, the same thing with this. I really like all that it's doing. So I'm gonna now take one that I can start from putting in here and then wrapping it kind of around this base area of the container. So what I mean by that is take my vine, and I'm gonna put it in towards the back. And then I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna kind of wrap it down around the base of the container. So I know you can't see it from this angle, so I'm gonna pick this up for a second. See what I've done where I've wrapped it around the base of the container, which I think is kind of fun. And I'm going to take one more vine. This one kind of is fun. And I'm just going to put it back in the back here so it will kind of drape over into the front. So I'm taking this and I'm putting it into the back, very back part of the arrangement. And then I'm bringing it forward and kind of, again, bringing it and letting it sort of sit around some of the sunflowers and the Rudbeckia. And then I'm just going to tuck the other part of it into the front here.
Nice.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about what I'm doing with all of this craziness with my vines? I don't know. I hope it translates what I know. Again, like my camera's really close. Let me see if I can just back it up a little bit. But I'm going to hold this up a little bit back here so that you can kind of see what I was talking about with wrapping the vines around and having them sort of come around the container a little bit. But as you can see, like right in here where my hand is, there's a bit of a void. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to go in with a little bit more of my hibiscus, and I'm going to then start to just put in some greenery up here so that it's not quite as see-through in the back. So my rule of thumb about, having it be 1.5 size the container sometimes doesn't always work out, but trying to keep to that. It's almost like that. And I also think at this point I can go in with a little bit more of my kale. And I can start to kind of fill in some of these areas as well with some more kale. Give it a little bit more volume. And I do want to have a little bit of kale here at the front. I'm going to try and look for a smaller dish size piece. And I'm going to tuck, yeah. So I have a little bit of kale now here at the front. And I feel like there's a little bit of a bald spot here. I'm going to go back in with a little bit more hibiscus. And just tuck that into there. I also have these really fun little small pieces of kale. So I'm going to go in and try and put that into an area, because it's not so big that it's going to block other things, but it's going to just add right there, just a little bit of texture right there. And then I think one more piece of kale is going to go in back here. Okay, so I have really done all that I want to do with my kale and my greens. I might put some more vines in though, because I have a little bit more of the vine. Like I just found this really fun piece. So I think I'm going to add that in right now. And again, I really like this idea of having it come sort of across the front and sort of playing in and out of the sunflower. So I'm going to stick the vine in over here towards the back. I actually like it doing that its own thing over here. I'm going to actually shorten this up a little bit. This is actually kind of fun. Just having a long piece of vine sticking out going this way. All right, so I'm going to take maybe this last piece of vine, a little bit of a dead branch on it. So I'm going to trim that off. I don't like the way the top looks, so I'm just going to snip that off. And then I have this piece of vine that I think I can put right back in here.
Cool.
All right, and so when I put that piece of vine back there, I totally blocked out this one stem. So I'm going to now move her over to the front. I'm going to put her actually back here, like so. All right, so now I'm happy with my vines and my greens and my flowers. So I have my last element left. And I saved this for the end because it's the smallest and it's the most delicate. So I didn't want to crush the last sort of like little touch of whimsy with everything else that's going in there. So what we have are these blue cornflowers. So in full disclosure, I meant to get cone flowers, but when I typed it in and ordered it, I said cornflowers.
Cornflowers.
So not exactly what I thought it was going to be, but it'll be just fine. And it's actually going to be kind of fun because it's blue, which will be a really fun, different color element for this piece. Again, not what I had anticipated it to be, but you know, sometimes that's what happens. So I'm gonna, again, you know, these come in several blooms. So I'm just gonna pull off anything that doesn't look good, any of the foliage that doesn't look good. And then I'm going to just sort of dabble it in. I actually don't want all of this blue all in one spot. So I'm gonna pull off, actually I'm gonna just clip off two. So I just have one bloom. And then I'm going to take these other two that I just snipped off, and they're very short. So I'm going to put them over here to the side a bit. Kind of like tuck those in there. And I'm going to do the same thing with this. These just have buds on them. So at some point these will open up. So I'm going to leave those as is because right now it's just the one blue bloom. And the one thing that I want to do with this blue, because it is so bright, is I want to bring it back into this area here. So to really kind of give it a nice depth. And for that, I'm going to leave this entire stem as is, and then have it back here so that when you look at it from the front, it brings the eye all the way to the back. So you can just sort of see how that really brought the focus and brought a little bit of the color all the way into the back area as well. And then I think like this area right in here just needs a little something. So I'm going to go in there. I want to make sure that I don't cover up this cute little piece of kale that I have. I think that this one is too much, so I'm going to snip that one off. We got like so. And then there's a little too symmetrical for me. Stick this down just a little bit lower so that it's not on the same plane as the other ones. Okay, so then I noticed that there's a bit of a bald spot right in here. So I'm going to go in a little bit of hibiscus. There, like that. And then I don't want to have it be like blue, 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 like all sort of like speckled too much in it. So I'm actually going to leave this area without it. And I'm going to go in with a little bit more kale and some of the 9 bark or the Hibiscus that I have in here instead of trying to make it too polka dotty with all of the blue, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I've got one more piece. So I'm going to take this, just have a little look-see. And I'm going to put it in here. So I'm going to actually adjust where this is. I'm going to put my pine bark in there instead. Yeah, like that. And then I'm going to move this down into here. Okay, so I am done with the arrangement. Let me pull it back so you can see it from a better perspective of what the whole thing kind of looks like. And then let me see if I can do some trickery. Hold on a second. Is that good? And then if I doing a little camera finagling here. Okay, so I think, yeah, that's a pretty good perspective. And I'm going to hold up my piece of cloth so that you can see it on a neutral background.
Nice.
All right. So,
So yeah, that looks pretty fantastic, Amy. Thank you. As Amy said, I think we've gotten to the end of our demo portion today, but I see some folks starting to hold up their spectacular arrangements, and we'd love to see what you've worked on. So you can give me a wave, or I see Janet Kidd is holding her arrangement up there. Did you want to share that with us and tell us about yours?
Sure. I didn't have the sunflowers, but I used large zinnias instead.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't have the red maple, but I took a piece of red and green coleus so I kind of got that color in the background.
Excellent. Yeah. And I mean, that's, I think that's like one of the fun things about this is that you can, you know, sort of like see what's in your garden or see what's in your backyard to then fill in. But yeah, that's fantastic.
The only thing I didn't use was a vine. I'll have to go out hunting for a vine.
That's fine. Excellent.
That's fantastic. And in the meanwhile, we would love for other folks to share, but I see we've got a couple of things in the chat for you as well,
Okay, sure.
Amy.
Yeah.
We've got a question asking, what is the name of the honeysuckle?
The honeysuckle is, hold on.
She will look that up for us and get back to us. While she's looking, I know some of you are probably still finishing up your arrangements, and I see some other gorgeous arrangements coming on the screen. Here we go. Amy's back.
So this isn't going to help at all. It says honeysuckle on the invoice. So I know that because it came from the farm that's down in Virginia, it's going to be the, you know, something that obviously can grow in that climate. It looks to me a lot like the sort of native honeysuckle that we actually have here at Hillwood, but I can't say for sure. I'm not 100% certain. And again, my invoice just says honeysuckle. So sorry.
Thank you for looking into that for us. And then someone else has actually asked if you wouldn't mind holding the cloth up again behind your arrangement so we can see it with that neutral background. And we've also got another comment in the chat complimenting you on your beautiful arrangement.
Mm-hmm. Gorgeous.
Okay. Is that good?
That's great. It really does look fantastic against the neutral background. You can really see the colors stand out.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I mean, I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out, but like when you're looking at it front and then like there's all this other stuff in the background, it kind of gets lost and it's a little bit hard to see what's actually happening in there. So good.
Is there anyone else who would like to share? You can go ahead and give me a wave, or there we go. Nancy would like to share. Let me add a spotlight. Take a look.
Hello,
Okay.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
This is where we are with,
Oh, lovely.
I found different flowers than what your suggested ones were, because I have them here. But it was fun to work with all the different yellows. I loved it.
Yeah. And I see that you do have some of the black-eyed Susans or the Rudbeckia in there.
I do. I actually bought a plant and I'm going to pot it afterwards. And
Perfect. And then you'll be able to attract bees and
my
all of
favorite.
the native pollinators as well.
Right.
Good. And is that goldenrod that you have in it as well?
I hope
Yellow.
not. It may be, but I hope not.
It
Right
looks-
here?
Yeah.
It was part of one of the arrangements with the sunflowers. I'll have to substitute something else.
It looks like goldenrod. You might want to check that out. Gorgeous.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing that beautiful arrangement. I think I saw a couple of other folks with their arrangements showing. Oops.
Amy.
Amy, great. Let me add a spotlight for you. Would love to see what you've done.
Yeah, so this is my cousin Dory and I are celebrating birthdays together with this class. And
Oh, happy birthday.
birthday.
thank you. And then this is the other one. This was so much fun.
They look gorgeous.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I like how, again, you were able to use some of the vine kind of coming out from the arrangement like that, give it that sort of wild look, which I think is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would never have thought of that. Thank you. That was great.
Good. Well, they're gorgeous. Well, I hope you guys have a lovely birthday celebration together.
Happy birthday and thanks for joining us. Those do look great. Okay, and I think was there Elizabeth? Did you want to share your arrangement?
I have to unmute, I think. Let's
Yeah,
see.
you're good.
Okay,
got it.
good. Thank you,
Good.
Amy. Another
Oh,
beautiful
beautiful.
class. So I love the one-sided or the three-sided. And I came and got my bucket today, which was absolutely beautiful. So I
Good.
really
Yeah.
love this. Yeah, it's just lovely. And just thank you so much.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're welcome. And what's really fun, like looking at these arrangements is I think everyone has sort of embraced that sense of sort of foraging for your materials and like a little bit of a sense of like a wild, unexpected side to
Yeah,
these arrangements as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gorgeous.
thank you. Thank you very much. I was just on the Constance Spry site yesterday.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the London Garden Museum. It's just
Yes.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I really, I highly encourage everyone to go and investigate that website and just to see. I know they have a lot of pictures. There was also a wonderful lecture that Shane Connolly did, who's the one who curated the exhibit. But just really kind of gives you an idea of what she was doing back then,
Yeah,
and how it's all sort of come full circle and is sort of back in vogue. To have these arrangements that are very sort of, I don't want to say thrown together, but that sort of look of very casual
Yeah.
and, really straight from the garden kind of aesthetic. And also, again, really emphasizing, being able to source locally
Yeah.
and to be able to have natives in your arrangements as well.
yeah.
Great.
Well, and your arrangements today in the center were just beautiful. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
Thank
just
you.
lovely, just lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there anyone else we've missed who would like a turn to share your lovely creations?
I will. I'm Sylvia. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little
Nice.
dark. I'm on a porch, but this was so
Oh,
much
yeah,
fun.
beautiful. Yeah.
I just love doing this. This is the second time that I've participated.
Yeah.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah. Thank you. It's just wonderful.
Well, it's
I've
beautiful.
learned so much from you.
Oh, good. And I mean, you know, looking at your arrangement, you definitely have mastered the Constance Spry aesthetic as well. So that looks fantastic.
Thank you.
It was really fun. I'm glad you were here, Regina. You would really appreciate it. I was thinking about how you would appreciate it.
All right. Was there anyone else that we've missed? Or I think we've gotten a chance to see from everyone who wanted to share. So thank you again, Amy, for leading us through this great demonstration of how to do this. Yeah, and thank you to all of you for joining us today. We were so happy to connect with you virtually. And again, we hope those of you who are in the area will come see us in person at Hillwood soon to see our current exhibitions, like the rich soil sculptures that are in the gardens, our Roaring 20s exhibition, and the porcelain flowers of Vladimir Kanevsky. Lots of exhibitions, lots of great programs and events coming up, including our next virtual floral design on August 13th. So we hope you'll join us for that. And meanwhile, everyone have...
Oh, so Rebecca, just really quick, I saw a message pop up in the chat. And yes, the kale is edible. I did not process it in any way, so it did not hit any like weird floral things or anything like that. So it's delicious. I'm probably gonna make myself a little Caesar salad with it tonight with all the leftover kale. So yes, definitely enjoy it if you have extra.
Perfect
Sorry,
idea.
I
I'm
didn't mean
glad
to
you caught that in
interrupt,
the
but-
chat. And I've also put in a
Yeah.
couple of links for you all if you want to explore our exhibitions and see the link to the next floral workshop. So again, thank you all for joining us. Have a great afternoon and a great
Great, thank
weekend,
you.
everyone. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.